Imagine that you're traveling along an infinite road. You're in no hurry to arrive. You feel safe, and so you enjoy the journey. It's not by chance, it's our commitment to the long term. A commitment that is not always visible, but is always present. From within. It all starts with a promise. Ours is with our own, with those around us, and with the planet. Sustainability has been, is, and will continue to be a strategic pillar of Gestamp's business model as the way to achieve our goals. Moving towards neutrality, decarbonizing mobility and industry, relying on circular economy, recycling, reusing and reducing waste. Improving people's lives, health and safety, promoting diversity and inclusion, being responsible with our environment. These are the steps that will lead us to an incredible future. And we will do it by manufacturing sustainability from within.
I'm here to provide you with some more details about the meaning of our message, Gestamp Manufacturing Sustainability from Within. We have seen through previous presentations that our sector is in the middle of a big transition, and this transition is full with very difficult challenges, but this opens an amazing amount of opportunities if we are able to manage this in a proper way. The thing is that now we need to meet mobility needs, but in a sustainable way. To decline this and to better explain what we consider sustainable way, we use the ESG concept. And then if we start with the environmental part, which is the part that everybody has an opinion and is receiving all the focus from the regulatory and from all the media, every different stakeholder, what is clear is that we are embedded in this process of decarbonization. And until now, we have been really focused on the decarbonization of the energy. When we talk about decarbonized mobility, we think always about mobility. Now is the time to decarbonize also materials. But then, what the society is expecting from us as a company is that we have an impact also on society. And society is also now changing in a way that is providing us with a completely new competitive scenario where talent is the thing that we need to secure. And when we are expected as a company to deliver something more on the communities that we are operating. All this done with the highest respect to all the standards and the norms that are defining how a company needs to be applying governance in today's scenario. And on this, what we are facing, and you have seen also through the news and on the different presentations, how important the value chain for the automotive sector has become during the last years. Luckily, for us at Gestamp, most of those topics are not new. We started with our ISO 40001 as a way to manage environment, and then we have evolved this into a completely new certification with zero waste with AENOR. On the same tone, we started with the United Nations Global Compact, being one of the first companies signing on this as a way of giving our commitment to this new initiative. This was then translated into the approval from the Science-Based Target Emissions Initiative on our emissions targets. And not only this, now we are able to present some details about our strategy covered by the ESG plan, always working for a net zero car. Our plan is part of our strategy and has been deployed by 8 different working groups with a composition that was completely crossing all departments at Gestamp. That's why this allowed us to really embed it on the strategy, but also making sure that the implementation will be led by the same people that was very involved on the definition. What does it mean, this definition? The definition was to first select the 4 megatrends that are framing our strategic plan. Then, what are the Sustainable Development Goals proposed by the United Nations that were mainly on our focus? And then having different boxes where we could allocate all our previous activities, but also the ones that are needed to succeed on these new challenges that we are having and generating the right opportunities. We start always with health and safety, because you have seen also visiting our nice sites here how safe is to work with us. Then, as requested by society, we have defined a clear roadmap to do the decarbonization and to provide this expected neutrality. We are pioneering on the implementation of circular economy, a topic that is well discussed in academic terms, but then it's really rare to see companies really investing on this, as we did during the last year. All these managed through our environmental targets, having this talent focus for a company that is having people at its core, with all our social contribution, giving an answer to those needs that are popping up in different communities where we are, and again, with the highest respect of everything related to ethics and governance. All this cannot be done alone, so that's why we have integrated as a key element on our strategy the value chain, because in the same way that we have been talking until now about new players coming as OEMs in combination with the traditional ones, when we talk about raw material suppliers, we have exactly the same situation. Very traditional players and now startups allowing us to dream about new technologies and how our metals will be prepared. The challenge here also, and you have seen through these first elements of my speech, is to keep the balance between the E, the S, and the G. But when we move to the E, these three chapters already announced. The CO2 road to neutrality, circularity, and all these under the environmental targets. But how will be our contribution defined? Three main elements. The way that we manufacture, the raw materials that we are using to manufacture all those products, and the products that we are manufacturing. You have seen how innovative can be our portfolio of products, but also you will see that step by step we are introducing innovation into the raw materials that we are using for those products, and also in the way that you have seen in the contrast between the two factories that you have been visiting. The Greenhouse Protocol allows us to define how we manage our CO2 emissions. And this can be a very complex topic, so that's why our approach is to simplify this. Scope 1 is our direct emissions that are coming from the use of any source of energy except electricity. Scope 2 are all the emissions that we are generating linked to the use of electricity. And on Scope 3, out of the very different categories that are in this chapter, what we consider the most relevant for Gestamp is the emissions linked to the use of materials. Because we have all these validated by the SBTi, and this is the only way to fulfill the requirements of the Paris Agreement. Electrifying our production is the parallel to electrifying our mobility. If we have been discussing about how important it is to move out of combustion engines into electrical vehicles, same in the way that we are producing. We were having some processes that were using fuel, gas, diesel for the forklifts. All those things need to be step by step moved into electricity. But then it's not only a question of which kind of energy are we using. The key point here, and this is linked with the operational excellence that Patricia will explain in detail later, is that the best energy is the one that is not being used. So that's why the efficiency is one of our key things. And last but not least, the electricity sourcing. We need to make sure that all the electricity that we are buying is produced in the right way. For this, we have detailed a very strong roadmap where we are combining the 1 and 2 scopes, because this is the energy, and then the 3, and we are having different set of actions going in parallel to tackle the 2 things. But when we are pioneering and when we are offering something slightly different, is on our position in front of this big challenge of decarbonizing the raw materials that we are using. At Gestamp, this means mostly steel. And then on this steel, what we see is that there is not a question only of the energy that you are using to produce this steel, is also embedded emissions linked to the metallurgical process, how you move from iron ore with oxygen and iron into real steel. The only way to reduce those emissions now, until the new generation of steel manufacture technologies is really in place, is melting scrap coming from already produced steel, because then you don't have those embedded emissions coming from the metallurgical process. It will not be enough steel for everybody, so that's why what we will be managing is this coexistence between linear and circular economy. And there, to prepare this circularity is where we have been investing, and this is having two main effects. One is decarbonizing the material itself. We reduce from 2.2 tons of CO2 emitted per ton produced of steel to 0.4 tons per ton. So it's a substantial reduction. That's why we talk about low CO2 steel or green steel. But not only this, once the decarbonization objectives will be achieved, or even there, society will require from companies like us that we are moving 3 million tons of steel per year, that we have a responsible use of those raw materials. So it's not only a value proposition that will help now to achieve the decarbonization, it's also something that will stay because we will have this responsibility on top of all what we do. And then, as Ignacio was explaining, we have the weight reduction on our parts. But then the core is this circularity that Gescrap allows us to deploy. Very easy to talk about circularity, very difficult to succeed generating the whole ecosystem. So if you are able to have all the key elements to create those ecosystems between the steel manufacturers and our customers, the OEMs, now we have Gestamp and Gescrap allowing us to close those circles. And this is what allows us then to deploy digital solutions and everything that will go even further on the definition of traceability, accountability for CO2 emissions, you name it. But first, the ecosystem needs to be closed by a clear set of companies. And last but not least, our role is that new categories of steel will be placed on the market, while our customers, what are looking is for stability on the supply. We are there to buffer these two processes, doing the homologation of the new qualities of steel that are produced, and also passing to the steel manufacturers the new requirements that our OEMs are passing to us. In social impact, we have health and safety. This will be explained later on our operational excellence, because this is a core element of everything what we do. The attraction for talent. You see that this is paradise for engineers, but we need all kinds of good people working with us. And also, these people that will join us, we need to keep those skills at the path of the evolution that is forced by the market. And then, the impact that we are doing on those communities. This can be measured by the number of hours that we are giving as a voluntary contribution, also our social initiatives, but even more important is giving the meaning of everything that we do, trying to select the activities where we can have a much better impact based on our core elements of the knowledge. So that's why we are focusing on education and training, mobility, transport, environment, without forgetting the emergency help that is needed sometimes when there is a crisis that we are facing lately on different countries. This governance. We have now the challenge that, in one hand, legislation is forcing us to control our suppliers and to be responsible for everything that is happening on their value chain. On the other hand, what is needed, and this is highlighted by the SDG 17, is partnership for the goals. What is clear is that although there are very difficult things to be achieved, we have more or less all the elements to succeed. The only thing is that maybe the one that will make something possible will not be one of the traditional partners or one of the big companies, and you need to deal with a little one, or you need to reframe the way that you are cooperating with an OEM or with a steel producer. So this partnership needs to be balanced with the need to control to the last extreme everything that is going on the value chain. And not only this, when we talk about circular economy, the value chain is coming back to you. So we need to be coherent on the way that we implement all our policies, because if not, we will have some problems there and so on. How we do this? We have the best of the independent oversight, and then the best on the family roots, giving us the leadership. We have more than 2/3 of our board directors. The independent ones are on key committees. More than 50% of our board directors are independent ones. But also, answering or giving a solution to all the new challenges that we are facing as a society, we have more than 30% of our board directors that are already females. All this rooted in our long-term strategic focus. All those challenges need a long period of time to be solved. We are talking about 2045, 2030. This, without a strong set of culture and values, this is almost impossible to pass all these key messages across all of us. And last but not least, this new relationship that we will need with suppliers needs to be extended to all different key stakeholders. And there is no better way to do that what we have now. And then this needs to be done, this needs to be implemented, this needs to be reported, this needs to be proved, this needs to be managed. And that's why on this structure that we have developed, we have all the key elements with an ESG department managing all those things, reporting to our executive chairman, having an ESG committee that is supporting us from all the serial management at the company. And then when we go to the board, there is a sustainability committee helping us and giving all the support on all those topics that we are doing. And those topics are not always easy ones or not always technical ones. Now we have 12.5% of our variable remuneration linked to the achievement of all those things that are described on our ESG plan. So we are becoming tangible, and things are not only a promise for the future, but this is touching your remuneration on a daily basis. And not only this, we are under the continuous scrutiny from the different rating agencies, and we are there listed with the most renewable ones, and we are trying always in continuous way to adapt the new requirements and to deliver the best that is required from us. So that's why with this active role, we are convinced that we are manufacturing sustainability from within, and that's why we are here to be your ESG partner supplier. Thank you very much. And now Patricia will follow with the operational excellence.